Breaking news.
Drama! Yes, drama when it comes to Manchester United.
It's all kicking off.
Man United won't break the bank for him. And if Man United won't break the bank for him, they've got other targets.
What's going on, guys? Good morning. Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well. It is Wednesday. It is match day. It is the transfer view, and we've got plenty to discuss this morning. I mean, I know I usually say that. And I say, oh, we got a jam-packed show. It's my impression of myself. Oh, we got a jam-packed show for you this morning, but we really do have a jam-packed show for you in the next hour. Well, technically 2 hours, because Ollie Watkins, Manchester United reportedly are thinking that a deal could be possible. Now, sources close to Aston Villa, according to Ben Jacobs, are suggesting that a valuation of £50 million could be enough to get the job done. Now, would that be 40 plus 10? Would that be 45 plus 5? We'll have to wait and see. We'll talk about what could consist of that £50 million valuation. Is that too much for a player that's 29, or is that just about right for a player that's in his prime that could guarantee goals and has played with one of our new signs in Brian Mbeumo before in the past at Brentford, who Mbeumo just yesterday was actually praising heavily for his style of play, facilitating his play as well on the pitch. But the other option, of course, is Benjamin Sheshko from RB Leipzig. And according to other reports from the likes of Fabrizio Romano, we've heard that Christopher Vivell, the director of recruitment at Manchester United, is heavily pushing to sign the player he signed twice before, once at RB Salzburg and another at RB Leipzig. Could he be trying to sign it for the third time at Manchester United? Is that the better option? We'll be chatting about that. We'll also have some clips for you. Fleck, our own Jurgen Fleckington, has been a busy boy out there in the United States. He's been busy in Chicago speaking to Diogo Dalot. We've got some exclusive clips from an interview he did with Dalot for TalkSport that we're going to be showing you this morning. Some really interesting answers from the Manchester United right back / right wing back / possible right centre back about the pressure at Manchester United, about his influence on the team, him being in a possible leadership role, as well as how he's had to adapt to a position change since Ruben Amorim has come in. And we're also going to be talking about Jadon Sancho and how the price for the freedom fighter has potentially dropped as well. So it's a busy morning. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. As you can see right there in the top right-hand corner, bang, even though my hands just disappeared via the magic of television, you can see in the top right-hand corner, we are over 198,000. Yes, big up to all of the new subscribers, everyone that subscribed since day one and somewhere in between, because we are less than 2K to go until 200,000. Yes, getting closer and closer and closer, and you're getting bang for your buck. Last night, the match preview, Flex, KG, Tier 1 James from the Muppeteers. A match preview went out in Chicago previewing tonight's game, of course, against Bournemouth. In addition to that, an interview with Manchester United left-back Luke Shaw went up last night as well. So be sure to check all of those out. And today, we've got such a busy day. After this show, you're going to be getting the New York Mega Vlog. You're going to see exactly what Flex, KG, and Just Josh Media Graphics Guru Visual Ninja were up to in the NYC and also in New Jersey, of course, for Manchester United's game at MetLife Stadium against West Ham over the weekend. In addition to that, around lunchtime today, dare I say, a bit of a spoiler. I'm like Paul Heyman. I don't do predictions. I do spoilers. Around lunchtime today, dare I say, Stretford Paddock versus United View? Dare I say that? Does the multiverse collide at an event hosted by John Shin in Chicago? Do I dare? Could that be a thing? Could that really happen? Well, lunchtime here at United View, maybe you'll just find out. So make sure you subscribe for that. And then this evening, you've heard of the red carpet. What about the red, white, and blue carpet? Yes, the red, white, and blue carpet with Flex, KG, Good Vibes John, and James from the Muppeteers. That's coming up this evening as well. So it's a busy day. Then we go into the wee hours of the morning where we've got match day. Yes, I'll be in the Asylum for Match View Live. Kickoffs at 2:30 a.m. So I'll be live at 12:30 a.m. We've got a jam-packed show. We've got clips, transfer news, matches. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope you're excited. I hope you're feeling this energy that I'm feeling this morning. I'm repping my UV merch because it's a UV day. Exactly. And the UV community is communitying right now. Yes. What are people saying in the chat this morning? Courtstar says DC versus Marvel. It's yeah. It's very, lunchtime. Check it out. Yeah, that's Courtstar with the eyes. Yeah, exactly. Christian's in the chat says, morning all. Javid says, sure, now Dalot KG is really measured. Really measured. Really measured. That's KG, yes. V says, if only we could get both Sheshko and Watkins. Well, yeah, maybe. I mean, we did the poll yesterday on yesterday morning's transfer view, didn't we? And I think, didn't Sheshko win it in the end? It was Watkins leading the whole way, I think, and then it was 52% of the votes suggested Sheshko over Watkins. I'm still on Ollie Watkins. I'm still banging that drum, but there's more developments. There's more developments for it this morning, indeed. So, yes, let's get straight in to the news this morning, beginning with the aforementioned Ollie Watkins first. So, as you can see right there, doesn't he suit wearing a Manchester United kit? No, agree, disagree, no. Ollie Watkins, according to Ben Jacobs, is very open to joining Manchester United. Now, according to Ben Jacobs, sources close to Aston Villa are hinting that an offer of £50 million may stand a chance, especially if he pushes for the move. Now, of course, this is interesting. The reason it's interesting is publicly, Aston Villa's stance has been Ollie Watkins not for sale. Even somewhat privately, the stance has been Ollie Watkins not for sale. But interestingly, according to Ben Jacobs and some others, we've heard the numbers of sort of 40, 45, 50 million pounds, something along those lines. That could be what Aston Villa could be looking for. So I ask you the question, folks, in the chat. I ask you the question. 50 million pounds, that could be total package. That could be total package. Yes or no? Yes or no, do you go with that? Factoring in, obviously, Ollie Watkins' age. He's 29 years old. Well, he's, let's have a look. Let's be specific. He's 29 years old. He's 30 at the end of the year, December 30th. He's 30. But you look at his record in over the last, 5 seasons in the Premier League, he's always got double figures. We know that if you're buying from a Premier League team, you are going to be paying a bit of a premium Premier League tax. We are waiting for certain dominoes to fall. Could Nicholas Jackson end up going to Aston Villa as a replacement? There is a replacement possibly there. Could we do a deal where Aston Villa also purchase Alejandro Garnacho separately for that? We've been looking for Premier League proven. We've been looking for not necessarily super young players, players in their mid-20s, which of course Watkins isn't, but players that can ready to go right now. We've already got young strikers. This was something Rio was saying to Flex yesterday, saying, look, we've got Hoyland, we've got Xerxes, we've got Cheeto. They're all young players. We need that kind of experienced striker up front that the players can look towards, so it eases the burden off them. But £50 million, is that too much? That is the question. What are people saying here? Dwayne says 40 plus 10 I can do. If he hits the 10, he's done well. It's a yes from Pete. Salib says no, would prefer Sheshko. Michael says, I would hesitantly pay 45 million max. Nem says yes. Manish says, if it's total, yes. Simon says nah. Ridwan says, overpriced, but I want the player. S. Madison says 50 for a 30-year-old is no. So you get, that's just a bit of a little bit of looking there in the chat. And it's mixed, as the poll would suggest yesterday. It is mixed. 50 is on the high side for me. I think that could come down. I think you could see add-ons. With this one. And maybe I would be, if we could get it to 40 plus 10, 42 plus 8, something along in those that kind of realm. 43 plus 7 plus 8, something like that, then I don't think that's the worst deal in the world. I don't really understand the argument that people are trying to make about resale value and saying, yeah, but what's the resale value? You don't sign Ollie Watkins for resale value, in my opinion. You sign him for goals. If you're signing Benjamin Sheshko and you're going, well, resale value, would that not suggest that it's probably not going to work out? Would that suggest that, well, at least we can sell him for a good price? What's the resale value for Rasmus Højlund at the moment? We spent a lot of money on him, young player, resale value. Resale value is only a thing if you're good at selling, which we're not. So when have Manchester United ever done resale value well? So I don't think that argument holds up. I don't think you sign a striker who's 29, 30 years old thinking about how much you could sell them for in 3 or 4 years, because you're not going to be able to sell them for that much in 3 or 4 years. The hope is that you sign them and they do well and you get your money's worth in that 3 or 4 years. So I don't really get that argument. I do understand the point that people are making when they say, well, there's just no longevity there, right? There's no longevity in that signing. There's no, what happens in 2 or 3 years when he's washed up and physically he's on the decline. What happens then? I'd say 2 or 3 years is a long time in football. I would say that, again, the context is really different. People bring up the Casemiro sign and go, look, you've learned nothing from Casemiro. We're not spending £70 million on Ollie Watkins because that's how much we bought Casemiro for. We're certainly, I would hope not, going to put Ollie Watkins on, was it £350,000 a week? So already the context is wildly different. For when anyone wants to bring up the Casemiro argument of, well, you've learned nothing from Casemiro. We'd learned nothing from Casemiro if we said, Ollie Watkins, you're 30, here's Aston Villa. We really want him, £70 million and £350,000 a week on a 4 or 5 year deal. We would have learned nothing then. And I would have understood that. I could totally understand that argument because at the time, that was still, it still is one of the highest paid fees for a player over 30 in world football. I think it's like Ronaldo and maybe someone else higher, but Casemiro is in that sort of top 5 for that number. And it's a different argument. It's just a very different argument. So again, these are sort of, straw arm arguments that don't really equate to each other. I just look at the Benjamin Sheshko thing. I think also people confuse the preference to go with Watkins over Sheshko of this idea. So you're saying that you don't like Benjamin Sheshko. So you're saying Benjamin Sheshko isn't a good player. So you're saying Benjamin Sheshko isn't going to do well wherever he goes. He very well could. He very well could do well where he goes. If he goes to Newcastle to replace Alexander Isak, I'm sure he'll do well. Had he gone to Arsenal, I'm sure he would have done well there because he's going into a good team. But that's the key thing there. He's going into teams that are Champions League qualifying teams. He's going into teams that have, in the case of Newcastle, just won a trophy. You're going into a team, in the case of Arsenal, that are getting to Champions League semi-finals, consistently in and around the title race, And even if they don't hit the ground running, they're going to have this or not as much pressure on them because they're in a well-functioning team. And those teams can afford to wait a year or so, or wait 1 or 2 years for it to develop and see how he's going to bed in and if he can adapt to the Premier League and what have you. Whereas we can't have that at Manchester United. We've already established we can't have that. Look at how we've dealt with Joshua Zirkzee last season. 6 months in, and I'm in this too. 6 months in, you've got KG saying he's faster than him. You've got Flex calling him an ogre. You've got me saying I think he's going to go in January because we're all hysterical. We might try and think that we're above it. I'm not that kind of fan. I don't get hysterical, but we all do in the throw of the game. In the throw of matches, we all get hysterical. And that's on someone that was there for like 6 months. Rasmus Højlund, he's been there for 2 seasons where we massively overpaid for him, and you saw it at in the first 2 preseason games. We have arguments every time he plays about, is he this? Is he that? I don't know. I just think at least if you sign Ollie Watkins, the expectation is that he has to hit the ground running. That's the expectation on Matheus Cunha. That's the expectation on Bryan Mbeumo, isn't it? When are we in 6-9 months' time? Are we going to be looking at Bryan Mbeumo going, he just needs a bit more time to settle in the Premier League? Well, there'll be the criticism of no, he should be hitting the ground running. That's why we're not doing it with the Mason Mount one. Well, adaptation. What's he adapting to? The physio room. He's never played. That's why that's why for me it was like after a season or two, really after the first season, I was like, he can go because it's not worked out. So, but I think with Sheshko, I think you have to give him that more time. I think you have to give him that more time. And I would just say to those that are maybe leaning towards Sheshko over Watkins, are you prepared to give him that time? Are you prepared to give him that time? Because I think that's only the fair thing to do with a young player playing in a new league, doesn't have a record of scoring loads of goals, scored goals, but not loads of goals. Are you prepared to give him the time that he will need? Bear in mind also, Manchester United don't have the time. This is a team that finished 15th last season. How much longer can we afford not to be in Champions League? How much longer can we afford just to be... We're not even mid at the moment. We're worse. What's worse than mid? What's worse than mid? So I that's why I really like the profile of players we have signed this summer in Mbeumo, in Cunha, because there is this expectation. You've got to go right now. You've got to be ready to hit the ground running. You're old enough and experienced enough to handle the pressure of Manchester United, the weight of that shirt. And as we've seen with younger players, that is an absolute, it's another level. It's another level. And it is. And No Name, which is ironic, someone anonymous is saying I'm talking out my ass, says he would have huge pressure at Arsenal. They haven't had a good striker since Aubameyang. It's on another level at Manchester United. And I'm not even saying Arsenal aren't a big club, because of course they are. They've got a massive fan base. But Arsenal are a team that for the last 3 seasons have qualified for the Champions League. Arsenal have been pushing for the Champions League. Of course, there's pressure on that team now to go on and win something and go on and achieve something. But if you think that going into an Arsenal team where they've got the likes of Bukayo Saka, where they've got the likes of Odegaard, where they've got the likes of now Zubimendi, where they've got the likes of Martinelli, people have been scoring goals, Declan Rice, people have been scoring goals the last 3 seasons. You go into that team, you're not expected like, right, if you don't score 25 goals this season, we're in the bottom half. They'd be like, well, if he gets 10 or 15, we might win the league. That's the fine margins we're talking. We're still doing the savior thing. We're looking for a savior. I'm not saying Ollie Watkins is the savior, but can you handle that expectation of look at even experienced players. Look at even experienced players like Marcus Rashford. Ultimately, in the end, pressure cracked him, and it's toxic with him. Look at people like Jadon Sancho. Pressure cracked him. It's toxic because the relationship gets toxic, and it's can you handle that? Can you handle that? can you handle? And are you prepared for what is going to come your way? Because it's rough. Mohidid says, Watkins doesn't even start for Aston Villa. What makes you think he fits to play for United? This is what I also love as well. When we get into these kind of debates as fans, we will start making stuff up. We will start making stuff up. We'll just go, Ollie Watkins never starts for Aston Villa. He never scores. It's lies. No, then I don't know what to tell you, because we're not having debates with real facts, are we? We're not doing that. We're just going, I want Sheshko, so Watkins never did anything. It was the same thing, remember, with Harry Kane? Remember that one? Harry Kane. What's Harry Kane ever won, though? He plays for Spurs. What are we talking about? We can find a reason not to sign anyone. We even did it with Gyökeres. Remember when we actually thought that Gyökeres was going to happen to us? And then we were getting into this discussion of going, can he do it in the Prem? I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to do it in the Prem. And look, when it comes to Rashford, there were some big games last season that Rashford was ahead of Watkins in the team. Absolutely. But there was also in some games some criticism of Unai Emery for doing that. Going, actually, Watkins maybe should have played that one. Rashford was really good, specifically against PSG. But again, just because it doesn't work out with one player at one club doesn't necessarily mean it's not going to work out with another player at another club. It's the same reason why Marcus Rashford plays for Barcelona right now, but he wasn't even getting in the squad at Manchester United. They're completely different situations, isn't it? It's totally different. But yeah, and then as far as the situation for Benjamin Sheshko and for really who's sort of driving it, because it's not to say that Manchester United aren't interested at all. They very much are. And let me be perfectly clear. Either one, we need a striker. We need a striker. So ultimately, if we sign Benjamin Sheshko over Ollie Watkins, I'm not going to be like, that's it. Man United have just completely blown this. Man United, they're not going to achieve anything this season. It's another 5 seasons of being, in the mud. We're screwed. This, that, and this. Not that at all. My hope would be that he works out. I just think that we'd have to have somewhat maybe different expectations of there might be this adaptation period that maybe we didn't have to have. That would be my only thing. But yeah, and as Evan says like that, Watkins started 36 out of 38 games in the Premier League. It is mad, isn't it? When he doesn't even start for Villa. Sorry. It's like, oh, there you go. Featured in 38 Premier League games last season. He doesn't even, guys, he doesn't even start for Aston Villa. Yeah? Why? Because I don't want to sign him. So that's my statistic I'm going with. Do you know that do you know he likes Marmite? Do you know that for a fact? No, but I don't like Marmite, so fuck him. You sort of go, I thought we were having a debate about this. No, okay, cool. No. Anthony says, was Mount and Maguire not Prem proven? Did they work? Was Alexander Isak and Haaland Prem proven? Didn't they work? Let's not truncate our rebuild with Watkins, but go all out for Sheshko. So we're going to look at pretty much over the last decade, 2 out of maybe 3 signings we've made from the Premier League. 3 signings for the Premier League, and say they didn't work, so the signings from the Prem won't work. We're going with all of those other signings that we made that we also say didn't work from Europe and around the world. So that's really, this is what I mean with these arguments. It's always case by case basis, but we just will not let our biases get out of the way. We will not do a proper pros and cons. We will just do, Mount and Maguire. So there you go. And I've been said for a year, Sal Mason Mount, Sal Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire. It's not even English bias as well. You got an English bias? No. None of our English players get an England team at the moment. Our English players are mostly shit. But it's more numbers on paper, isn't it? So yeah, I just don't know why we have to sort of, again, make stuff up. There are legitimate actual cons for why we maybe shouldn't sign Ollie Watkins. But when we do the sort of make up ones, going, we signed Mount and Maguire, so that can't work. They were Prem proven. Look at Haaland or Isak. They worked out for us. I didn't realize we signed Haaland and Isak. No, I didn't realize we signed those players. What players did we sign from abroad that we're happy with? Of the ones we're also trying to sell at the moment. It's crazy. Super chats, and then I'll get to the Benjamin Sheshko part of it. Lee says, can you do the Benjamin Sheshko Pharaoh voice?
Benjamin Sheshko.
There you go. Jeremy's been a member for 15 months, says, Mateta or Watkins for me over Sheshko every day of the week. Preferably Mateta, as it would be nice to have a Congolese bro playing for United again. Mateta one just doesn't look like it's going to happen, does it? And I was a big Mateta fan. I mean, again, I've said it for months here on the channel, even when it was unpopular to do so, because he plays for Palace. Big Mateta fan, but it doesn't just look like he's going to be going anywhere, does it? And they still might lose Eze this summer, so you feel like they're maybe going to lose like one big player, maybe. I'm not sure. Amanor says, Owen, please ask Flex to prepare questions in advance. For what? For talking to Ruben Amorim or for chatting to Man United players? Ali says, Watkins is a fantastic player, but Jim Ratcliffe himself said no high fees for players nearing their peak. Who's approving the Watkins fee? That is also a good point. But Sir Jim Ratcliffe also said about putting the Manchester back in Manchester United. Now we're having, was it £4,000 ticket lotteries? So who fucking knows? I would not take with the what Sir Jim said truth scale, because who knows? Who knows? We'll put the Manchester back in Man United, and lots of people have lost their jobs. So I don't know what to believe from them anymore. I don't know what to believe. About the Sheshko stuff, though, because I do want to get to this as well. So according to Fabrizio Romano, Christopher Vivell, of course, the Manchester United recruitment director, is pushing driving Manchester United's interest in Benjamin Sheshko. Fabrizio Romano had quite a lot to say. He said, if Sheshko decides he wants to go to Newcastle, they are ready to pay whatever it takes. They already know the conditions of the deal, so they don't even need to negotiate with RB Leipzig. They are ready to go and pay what Leipzig wants. They're ready to go and pay what Sheshko wants. They're also ready to pay whatever Sheshko's camp wants. They know everything about the deal. They started working on this last week. Newcastle are ready for Sheshko at any moment, but it depends on the player. It's up to the player if he wants Newcastle, and then they'll be ready. Don't forget Manchester United, as they keep working on the Sheshko deal. They're in contact with people close to the player and ready to speak with Leipzig. They're still working on the Sheshko deal at Manchester United. Newcastle are very ready, but United need to understand they can be ready. This is also on the player. He can decide to go to Newcastle or maybe wait for Manchester United. Sheshko is going to take his time. It's not imminent in terms of hours. It'll probably be some days until he decides what to do. So it would suggest then Newcastle are much further along with this, and it's just up to what Benjamin Sheshko wants to do. Does he want to wait around? If he can wait around, maybe Man United are confident of, all right, we've got to find out how we're going to actually finance this deal. Rashford's, we've got that money coming in for saving from his wages. How close is Sancho to go? And we'll talk about that in a bit. How close is Anthony going? Garnacho going? But well, if Fabrizio Romano is saying basically he's going to decide in about a week what he wants to do, do we really think that Manchester United in the space of 7 days are going to be in a position where they can actually bid on Benjamin Sheshko? Because I lean towards no. I don't know if I see us being. I don't know if I see us being in that position in 7 days' time, because just not a lot's really happened. I mean, we've already started to hear those reports, haven't we? Of by the first game of the season against Arsenal, the United hierarchy are kind of accepting that they won't have a striker in by that point. I don't think that means by the end of the window we're not going to have signed a striker, but I think that, and that's what, 2 weeks. Was it just 2 weeks on Sunday away? Like I said before a couple of days ago, and I know this was before all of the developments us linking us to Sheshko. I just feel like it's just going to move too quick for us. I just feel like that's going to end up moving too quick for us. And even if we wanted to participate in that, I feel like the domino is going to fall quite quickly with Alexander Isak now. I mean, this morning they confirmed, Bayern have confirmed they've signed Luis Diaz for 70 million euro plus 5 million euro in add-ons. So that's what, like 65 million pounds. So they've just got that through the door. The Darwin Núñez one might happen quite quickly too. But even now, they can probably start negotiating with Newcastle for Alexander Isak. So I wouldn't be shocked if that first bid for Isak comes in. If that comes in, then they can, the domino will move quite quickly to put pressure on for Sheshko to go to Newcastle. I'm not sure. The only thing, like V says there in the chat, what United could use to their favour is maybe use this Sheshko deal as a bit of a make weight. And I wouldn't even be shocked if this was the situation. The fact that we're not really pushing it, it's not like bids have gone in, or it's not like personal terms have been agreed with the player or anything like the fact that, we presented it, but they've not really taken that step just to fully advance it, says to me that we're trying to do maybe what we've done before when we're after certain players. Remember, like last year when we were going after Ugarte, and then it was like, right, we're ready to walk away and we'll go for somewhere else. We'll go for someone else. We'll go for Sanderberg. We've got to go for Sanderberg. And then we never really went for Sanderberg. We never put a bid in. We never really spoke to his agent or the player or anything like that. It just felt like a way to try and scare PSG to kind of doing business. And we always knew they were going to do business as well. So it kind of does feel like a little bit with this of maybe we're sort of pushing it as well. Going, look, there are other options. Look, we'll talk to Benjamin Sheshko and Villa. Well, if you want to play ball with us, maybe get Garnacho as well. It would be good if we could sort something. It just kind of feels like that. But I just don't know if we've got the ability at the moment to do this deal on the timeline that Newcastle could. And the only thing that can help us if we do end up signing Sheshko is if it's ultimately he makes the same decision that Matheus Cunha and Bryan Mbeumo made, which is I don't want to go anywhere else but Manchester United. Let's face it, that's the reason we signed Bryan Mbeumo from Brentford, is because he, from the very beginning, said, I only want to go to Manchester United. Had it been a legitimate race and Mbeumo was open for playing for other clubs, including Manchester United. I'd like to go to Man United, but if Spurs or Chelsea or whoever put in a bid, I'm happy to go there as well. If that was the case, we probably wouldn't have got him with how long we dragged that out for and whether or not we had the money to do it and this, that, and the other. And Brentford moving the goalpost and Brentford's preference over where he could go. It was really Mbeumo going, I only want to go United. That's where I want to go. That's what really pushed that one through. If Sheshko did that, then you do think that, well, okay, then maybe, that we could end up getting him. It's just going to take a little bit more time. It might be after the season starts. It might be in a couple of weeks, 3 weeks' time, which seems crazy to say today, but that's how quickly we're moving, isn't it, in the market? And we still got to move players on. If it is a thing of next week, he kind of wants to figure out what he wants to do by then and see what's in front of him, I don't know. Then I just feel we're just not going to be up to pace to do that. But maybe things will change with us in the next few days about outgoing players as well. Lee says, you just know if Sheshko goes to Newcastle, he'll end up being a new Isak, not another Rasmus. He has far more stock, worth the risk. But you know what's funny with this as well? Because it was on a transfer view, it was a couple of weeks ago, I think it was. And I can't remember which player we were talking about. It might have been Sheshko. When we were sort of saying that, I think it was Ekitike. I think when we were talking about Ekitike, we were talking about how we do this too. We're so down on Manchester United as a team, and we're so down on our ability to sign players, and if they've got potential, turn that actually into something that we sort of go, Ekitike to United. Nah, I'm not sure about him. Expensive and young. I'm not sure. Then when he goes to Liverpool, we're like, that's a good signing for them because we're aware that their environment is much better than ours. So we live in this sort of weird perpetual cycle of he wouldn't be good for us, but he could be good for someone else. He wouldn't be good for us, but he'd be good for someone else. We should sign him because if he went to Newcastle, he'd be good. But if he comes to us, he'll be bad. But if he's going to be bad when he comes to us, why should we sign him? You know what I mean? We sort of go in this sort of weird cycle. And I get your point. And then eventually you do have to go, well, eventually you've got to try and take the risk, I suppose. And then the counter argument to that is no, we should try and find the one that is the least amount of risk possible as well. So it's difficult. Stephen says, which one would Ruben be asking for? Well, that's interesting too, isn't it? That one really hasn't been reported all that much, has it? With that, you think at this point maybe Ruben might just be happy just to have a striker in the team, or to sign a striker, or maybe you would think he would have a preference, and it'd be really interesting to know who his preference would be. If it is, there are people pulling for both at the club. Maybe Ruben can be the tiebreaker in that one, perhaps. Yeah. What else are people saying here in the chat? It's an interesting one. It's an interesting one. Max TT says, have you guys not seen Sheshko play? Dude has touch, pace, and aerial presence. He is 22 and a lot more refined than Rasmus. It always makes me laugh when we do this as well. Do you remember the clip? It wasn't a clip. It was a thread when we signed Sofyan Amrabat on loan, and it was one of these like Twitter tactical, accounts, and it was like Sofyan Amrabat. He's got pace, power, strength. He's a leader amongst men. This is why he's going to be one of the best midfielders in the Premier League. And then they sort of circled back to it a year later and went, "Oh, it's like anything with a transfer is risk. Anything with transfer is a genuine risk." I remember when we signed Xerxes last season, and there was this sort of feeling of, we've signed a striker, goals. We're going to be getting goals. And then Flex did the interview, still up on the channel, with Kevin Hatchard, and he described Joshua Xerxes down to a T, where he said he's tall, not amazing in the air, he's not that quick, doesn't score a load of goals, but he's a really interesting player. He's good with his feet, he's got a good touch, good link-up play. And he went, and that that's how you describe Xerxes, isn't it? But is that at the time last year you go, was that what we needed? Is that what we need? I don't know. It was it's weird. It's weird. But this is the transfer season, isn't it? That's what happens. Where are we at in terms of likes? We are over 1,200 people watching. If you haven't already, click the like button. Be sure to subscribe as well. A reminder for what's coming up today. We've got loads happened last night. We've got loads coming up today. So if you're not aware, last night match preview went up ahead of this evening's game against Bournemouth. Reminder, it's a 2:30 a.m. kickoff. I'm going to be live at midnight. So be sure to join me then for all of the build-up, and I'll guide you through the match. In terms of a preview for that game, last night, Flex, KG, James from the Muppeteers, part of a match preview from Chicago, from the Chicago Performance Center. So be sure to check that out. There's also a Luke Shaw interview that went up last night as well, so you can see what the Manchester United left back had to say. This morning, we've got, right after this show at 10 a.m., we've got the New York, New Jersey mega vlog that's going to be going up, so you can see what Flex, KG, and Josh were up to on their travels on the first part of the Manchester United USA pre-season tour. Around lunchtime today, midday, sort of 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, we're going to be crashing the multiverse. It's going to be Stretford Paddock versus United View. Interesting. Have I caught your attention? Yes, you will see what happened when Stretford Paddock and United View were at an event hosted by Good Vibes John in Chicago. It's going to be going up about lunchtime today. And then this evening, we've got a very special version of the red carpet. It's not the red carpet, it's the red, white, and blue carpet. In person with Flex, KG, Good Vibes John, and also James from the Muppeteers. That's going to be coming out at 7 p.m. this evening. And then, as I mentioned, I'll be live with the match view from midnight. So you get your bang for your buck, certainly today, with United View. In addition to that, Flex has been very busy because he's been talking to Manchester United right back Diogo Dalot in an interview exclusive for TalkSport. But what we do have this morning is some clips from the interview. Now, as I said, be sure to check out and watch and listen to the full interview on TalkSport. But we've got some clips here of some questions that Flex asked Diogo Dalot, beginning with this actually came from one of the panelists from Inside Devils, actually, the show on TalkSport, which was asking Dalot about his influence. Of course, he's been at Manchester United for a while now. When did he sign? 2018, Jose's last season, wasn't it? 2018, I think it was. been at Manchester United a while, becoming a more senior player. What's his influence like at Manchester United?
First up, we've got a little message, or some questions actually, from my fellow Inside Devils guys. Here's the first one from Ryan. Here's what he has to say.
No, your passion in this squad is unprecedented. I love it. It's one of the best attributes. I want to know how much of an influence you feel like now in your stage of the career, how long you've been in a Man United shirt, just how much of an impact and how much influence you have on this squad as it stands.
Big question.
Good question to start. Yeah, I mean, I think I don't, obviously at this stage of my career and obviously in the club, you always try to find ways of improving your teammates, improve the environment that you are in. And obviously me being here for a long time, I feel that I have this responsibility also to share with my teammates the standards that the club needs to have and where we want to go. And the one thing is for you to say it, and the other is to show it. And I think that's the biggest challenge now that I have in myself, and try to also give it to my teammates. It's that this has to be a daily life. This has to be something that you need to put in every single day if we want to put the club back on top. So it's obviously a tough challenge because we've been through difficult times. But at the same time, it gives me more energy because I know that once we get everyone at the same page, everyone in the same path, not just players, but obviously everybody together as one, I think we will get there.
Yes, he thinks we will get there. He talks about how he's grown in influence in the team. We talk a lot about pressure. We talk about the pressure that comes with playing for Manchester United. We talked about it earlier on in this show, actually, this morning, talking about how young players, how do they handle the pressure? How much are they aware of it? How debilitating can it be? Dalot was asked about that, as someone that's been at Manchester United a while now, the ability to handle the weight of the shirt, and possibly some players that can or can't handle it. He spoke about how heavy the shirt is at Manchester United and how are they going to manage that pressure, especially after last season.
But I really wanted to get your understanding in terms of the pressure of Manchester United. Of course, it's been a bit of a difficult time over the last couple of seasons, but how hard really is it to really operate at such a high level with so many eyes and cameras and scrutiny on you?
Big question. Big praise as well.
Big question. I mean, I think it's always something that I think when you arrive to the club, it always gets you. It always shocks you a little bit because you think the club is big, but you don't understand how big it is until you're inside. And I think that's the first reality, that the reality shock that you get once you arrive. But then with the pass going by, you just have to realize what are really the demands for you to be in a club like this. First, if for you to arrive, you're going to have quality. I think that's undeniable because otherwise you wouldn't sign for a club like this. But then there's when we talk about this type of pressure that is especially from the outside, from the fans, it's specific because they just want you to see giving everything for the club. Then you might have good games or bad games. You might have less or better quality than some players, but that standard, that thing that you need to show when you are on the pitch, I think that's the most important thing as a club, especially for the fans. I think that's the first big thing that they want to see in a football
commitment,
player.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you're not committed to what you are doing, to the games you're playing, to the club, I think it will be very difficult for you to succeed at this club. And then it's just trying, like I said to you earlier, it's just trying to do as much time as you can, the most consistent way as you can. Because unfortunately in football, the memory is too short. You just have to constantly be doing it every single day, otherwise people will still asking you why you're not doing it, or will obviously demanding you. It's just not enough for you to do it for one game or for one season. You need to do it constantly, and that's the pressure and the standard of playing for a big club. If you want to be here for a long time, you need to be ready for that.
And also, Flex was asking Diogo Dalot about his position in this Manchester United side. Of course, previously under Erik ten Hag, he was a right back, inverted into the middle. He wanted his fullbacks to invert in the middle of the pitch. He wanted his fullbacks to play as sixes. Ruben Amorim, of course, doesn't even play with fullbacks, plays with wingbacks. Dalot's played as a wingback on both the left and right-hand side during Ruben Amorim's tenure at the club. So he was asked about the differences between playing in those positions and what position he could be playing in moving forward. Here's what Dalot had to say.
For you on a personal now I say this position change. I remember when Aaron was here, maybe Aaron could be described as more defensive fullback and your side of the game is more offensive. And now Ruben's coming and he's playing sort of in between the two with a right wing back. Does that positional change within the formation, do you feel that suits your game more, or is it actually more demanding than it ever was? So it still comes with different sets of difficulties. How have you found that?
I would say it's more demanding because you need constantly being in the game. You have to think as a defender and as a forward.
Yeah.
So before you could think when you're playing as a back four, you're a defender first. And sometimes you have to think as a forward because you're going to help your winger or you do overlaps or underlaps. Now, when we get the ball, I'm the winger. I'm the guy who's
you're up there high,
so
man.
That's personally, I like it because he also unlocks me new things in my game and he puts me even more complete. So I know I have to also work in that part, especially the mindset of when we have the ball, I have to think as a forward. And sometimes I try to protect what's going on in the back, whether it's sometimes not my responsibility, but it's natural on me because I'm a defender. But it's also challenging, and I like to be challenged during my career and during my seasons. We've seen, I don't know, in the past when I had to play more inside with Eric, and that was a challenge for me, playing sometimes as a number 6. I never had that in my career. So I think it just helps me to be more complete, and I try to do the best as I can. Sometimes goes well, sometimes goes not so well, but I always try to be open for it because I know that in that moment the team needs me to do the best as I can. But yeah, I would say it's more challenging because I have to think both ways more often. But at the same time, I think I have the physicality to do it. So I just have to keep pushing and try to improve. I think it will be good for me and for the team.
So, like I said, a full interview will be available exclusively on TalkSport, on their YouTube channel, on Inside Devils, and also on the radio. So be sure to listen and watch that. It's an interesting interview, actually, with Dalot. I think we were talking about this, Marcel and myself, in one of the match views recently, saying that actually I don't want to see him in the wing-back positions anymore. He had a really, really bad season last year, points of game. I mean, it was, KG will tell you, he was not happy with Diogo Dalot points last season. That one in the beginning of second half, where he kicks it to clear it and ends up going out for a corner from the opposition. I think it was in the Europa League game. I still don't understand how that was possible. I do think he's got a good mentality. I do think that he speaks very well. He's a good communicator. Of course, he speaks like a bunch of different languages across the back four. But I think now that we're hopefully transitioning to the wing backs are more attacking minded players and attacking focused players like an Ahmad. I think this season he's going to have to be more off the bench. And I think that's the right thing. Unless he converts into being sort of a right centre back, then I would see that that's probably his future for the team. I suppose we're still in that situation whereby this was kind of what Rio was saying to Flex the other day with, there are still going to be those games this season when we go away to Anfield or the Etihad or the Emirates or St. James's Park or wherever, where do we necessarily want to be playing with attacking wing backs? It might actually be to our benefit if we do get behind the ball a little bit, be a bit more resolute, don't lose those games, as opposed to we're just going to go all out and attack and see what happens. That's maybe not conducive to going there and getting a result. So he might be useful for those games where your wing backs should be maybe a bit more defensively focused as opposed to more attacking focus. As a backup or / support for Ahmad at right wing back, I think he can go into that role. But I think you can see, well, I see it in the chat during that interview, or during the clips of that interview rather, that there's a lot of, I think apathy isn't even strong enough to a lot of these players. And what I would say about that is, look, not that you have to give him a clean slate, and you've got to just, because it's ridiculous. That's why I said ridiculous when KG was saying the clean slate thing about Ruben. I don't think anyone gets a clean slate at United after last season. But we do also have to wrap our heads around that some of these players, look, they're not going to be going anywhere. It's a bit like the Luke Shaw situation, isn't it? If we could have sold Luke Shaw this summer, would I have sold Luke Shaw? Absolutely. But the majority of these players, if you said, oh, and you can sell them and you'll be able to get a replacement in, would you sell them? Of course, I absolutely would. But that's not the reality. The reality is that a lot of them are going to stay. And we've just got to hope that they can raise their levels a little bit, or Ruben can get more out of them. And the problem is Ruben said he can't, and we're doubtful whether they can raise their level. And I think it is just as Compost says there. I think that is true. I think they'll get support. I think it's just tired, and also it is just words, isn't it? I think it's just words. We want to see action, not words. It was a bit like I always go back to this. When the season ended and there was that period of time of when season's just finished and transfer window's open but hasn't really started yet, like that kind of bit, there was so much optimism and happiness that you could feel it, like the tone, the change of tone from the Man United fans, just because the season was over, and just we can look forward. And as the window goes on, he sort of last season creeps back in. And when we started seeing those postseason friendlies, because that felt like a real low point, wasn't it? Those postseason friendlies of I just don't give a shit. Just don't give a shit, don't care. I just can't be doing with this anymore. And we've heard so many interviews and so many words only to then go out and lose the Europa League final, lose at home in the Premier League. That is just about action at this point, isn't it? It's about action. It's about seeing something. And that's why I think the weekend got a positive reaction, even though, again, there's a lot more to go. But 70 minutes of watching United actually play,
done okay.
Not even amazing. Still not to where we would have to be or want to be, but just somewhat palatable as opposed to throwing up. Watching the team was just, okay, right, that's action. What I mean? That's at least that's action. So hopefully that continues, but you never know. Abador says, I think this is the end for Martinez, Dalot, and Maguire. Well, I think Maguire's on his way out. I don't know about Martinez. This would be a big season for him, about how he recovers from injury and if he stays fit. If not, then I think he might be on his way out. I don't know if Dalot ends up going. I'm not sure. And just very quickly before we wrap things up, because we've got the vlog coming out at 10, a bit on Jadon Sancho. Ben Jacobs saying that Manchester United have dropped Jadon Sancho's asking price of £70 million. Dortmund are currently debating whether to make an approach for the player. According to Ben Jacobs, Juventus still in talks with Jadon Sancho. I talk about believe it when I see it. I will very much believe the Juventus one when I see it, because how long has that been going on? Only for David Ornstein to come out and be like, I don't know where that's come from. So I will believe that one very much when I see it. As far as the price dropping, again, it really is, when you look at sort of wasted talent or ability, it's one of those stories that's right up there, isn't it? It really is. The amount that we signed him for the year before that, how much Dortmund were charging for Jadon Sancho. Even this time last season, when that deal was announced that it was going to be Sancho going to Chelsea and the £25 million loan obligation, even then there was outrage and outroar about, I can't believe we're going to get rid of him for 25 million. That's a disgrace, Chelsea. They've absolutely embarrassed us. Chelsea, United, you're terrible, blah, blah, blah. The reality is today, if we could get 25 million for Jadon Sancho, you rip your fucking arm off. Pardon my language, but you'd be like, thank you very much. I'll have 25 million for Jadon. Yes. Now we're just hoping to get money. Can we get some money? Can we get some money for Jadon Sancho? I still think he'll go, but I suppose the problem is now that I wouldn't be shocked if the value continues to drop, because we're desperate to get rid. Despite what Ruben says, well, I'll reintegrate them. We're not going to reintegrate those players in the Exiled 4, or it's just going to be a case of I think that one will rumble on. Indeed. But there you go, guys. That is the latest Manchester United transfer news for you. Again, a jam-packed show, a busy day today. Right after this, you don't have to go anywhere. The New York mega vlog will be premiering here on United View. So that'll be Flex, KG, and Just Josh Media Graphics Guru Visual Ninja. You'll see what they got up to in their travels on New York and New Jersey. About lunchtime today, we're going to have Stretford Paddock versus United View, hosted by John Shin in Chicago. How is that even going to be a thing? How is that going to happen? You're going to find out at lunchtime today. And at 7 p.m., it's not the red carpet, it's the red, white, and blue carpet with Flex, KG, Good Vibes John, and James from the Muppeteers. And then, of course, tonight, you can see it in the sidebar. It's going to be Match View Live, presented by Oxford Natural by Gowan Life. Manchester United versus Bournemouth. Kickoffs at 2:30 in the morning. I'll be live at midnight, as always, 2 hours before kickoff. Also, what went up last night is a match preview for that game. We've also got an interview of Luke Shaw. And tomorrow, we're going to have a special Flex and KG show, hopefully dropping in the morning, as well as all of the fallout from the match, because I'm going to be asleep, because the match isn't going to finish till like 4:30 in the morning. And I'll probably be in bed by like 5 or 6, which is usually when I wake up in the morning. So, yes, no live morning show tomorrow, but there will be a Flex and KG show, so you don't miss out. Anyway, guys, go watch the vlog now. Hope everyone has a good Wednesday, and I'll see you all again later on this evening. I'm out of here. Peace.